Okay, hello and welcome to the Rugby Chat episode 40. Now, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you'll have noticed that I went out for a few work beers before the show, and hence I decided to be sensible and get myself a nice cup of tea. Now, whilst I was making myself a cup of tea prior to this, my two guests, who you can't see yet because I've not brought them on screen, had a massive rant, and they've warmed up big time for this show. So I was going to hand over control to Ashwin, but I've got a funny feeling that this is one that I need to keep the tight control on the reins, because this one could go and be absolutely fantastic and messy at the same time. So, good evening. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hi Christian and Andre in the live chat. And yes, remember, this is brought to you by DrivingMaul, your best place for your predictions and opinion. And let me bring in my guest, because this is going to be a cracker. Hey Ashwin, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Yes.
You are good.
I can't wait to go.
And you are so dressed ready for question 3. If anybody had any guess as to who Ashwin supports, he's gone and worn his colours nearly literally on his sleeve. But yes, it's there. It's not quite on his sleeve, but it's on his heart. It's all there. And we have Herman, who has decided to go. He's going to hide all his colours by going full face in the camera up close. Oh. But what we will say is, thank you very much, Herman. You've got a new headset, so we're looking for better sound quality from. Well, let's actually hear you tonight, and also you've removed the beard. All that muffling has gone, so we can actually. There's nothing to hide the sound now. It's all going to come out. So anyway, after my long preamble, let's get into it. So first up, boys. What was your moment of Super Rugby round 16? It was a shortened round, just Australia and New Zealand, but what was your moment? Ashwin?
Go Herman.
I'll go Herman. Oh, okay. Pass the buck along. And we have absolute silence from Herman. This is not working. He's got a brand new headset and we can't hear a thing. This is a real shame.
Plug it in again.
Yeah, plug it in, Herman. It always helps.
Herman, we can't hear you.
Okay. Ashwin, you're going to have to wait. Herman's going to have to drop off.
I'll go.
You go. Herman's going to drop off and come back on.
Yeah. You're going to hate me for my moment of the week this week? My moment of the week this week was at the Maracana markets on the weekend and getting basically tapped on the shoulder and saying, "Are you Ashwin from DrivingMaul?" Andre recognizing my voice in the crowd. It was gold, absolute gold, and catching up with one of our regular listeners and contributors on the show was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. In terms of rugby on the field, I suppose Highlanders Hurricanes game overall, I can't really say I pick a moment as such, but just the game overall was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, and this happened to me once before as well. I was down in Hamilton for the Lions versus the Chiefs game, and I'm walking down the road just after trying to find somebody, and someone stops me and goes, "You're that guy off YouTube, aren't you?" And it does occasionally happen. It's kind of funky. It's kind of cool, it's so.
Come on,
please.
But you had your hat saying DrivingMaul on the top.
I did have my hat saying DrivingMaul on the top. I even had flashing lights, everything going out, and everyone was like, "What's that weirdo doing with those flashing lights?" And but one guy went, "Aha, yes, there you go." So 1 in a million, there you go, or 1 in 4 million. That's 4 million people here in New Zealand. But there you go. So Herman, are you back with us?
Nope.
No, he's not. Okay, Herman, drop off the Skype and come back on, please. Hopefully he can hear me and say that. But there we go. He's gone. I'm sure he'll come back. So anyway, my moment of the weekend. It was a shortened one, wasn't it? It's a bit difficult, really, to say what was. Obviously,
la.
Oh, we have voice, but we have no no picture. So let's just go with the voice. Herman, what was your favourite moment?
I would say the Aussie Derby. I mean, we can complain about defense, that it was non-existent, but come on, 15 tries almost felt, beautiful to watch. I mean, as a neutral, it was perfect to lie there on Saturday evening, just chilling to that game. So I will pick the Aussie Derby between the Reds and the Tars.
I'm going to go now for a totally different tact and talk about some Major League Rugby. So I watched 3 Major League Rugby games this weekend. Thank you, Queenie, for giving us a long weekend and giving me Monday off, which let me watch the
Queenie,
final.
yeah.
The Queen, yeah, Queenie to me. Hey.
No, Queenie. Yeah.
I'm English. I'm like, yeah. See, I know her personally. I like you Kiwis, she's kind of this distant person who runs the country. So the having the upset of the seeing the Austin Elite versus, was it Austin? No, wrong way around. The Sabercats versus the Utah Warriors. Seeing the Utah Warriors come through and get their win at the weekend. It was it's fun and interesting watching the American rugby. And also, it was great to see have one of the players' dads come on the live chat, the live post-match reaction, and have a chat with us through the live chat. That's the kind of stuff you get in rugby, where there is that kind of people want to the players, the parents, etc., all are part of the community and joining in, and that was great fun to see. So really enjoyed that at the weekend. That's
when you know it's grassroots.
Well, this is professional grassroots, isn't it? This is the funny thing. So one of the games I did was the Seattle Seawolves, and so I had Tony Ridnell, who's the USA Eagle, and who was actually out and I think actually Ashwin, this is what the Mitre 10 Cup teams need to do. They actually had a watching party at a brewery. So one of the microbreweries in Seattle had a watching party for the away game. So I'm going to get in touch with the Taranaki Rugby Union and say, hey, for your away games during the Mitre 10 Cup, we need to have watching parties. I'll get on stage with a microphone and I'll talk to the crowd before and after. Send me some players down. We'll have a quick chat and do perhaps maybe even put it as a live show on YouTube and try and drum up some interest, because the Mitre 10 Cup is a fantastic competition, and if we can get the people to watching parties during the away games, that'd be good. I know the Blues have tried that occasionally, but I'm not sure they've been very successful.
You can't do Blues with beers. You need stronger stuff if you're going to have a watching party with the Blues.
Are you getting on to question 3? Hang on.
I think it's already question 3. Here I am trying to rein you guys in.
Paul, yep. If I may add about the weekend, I mean, usually we don't talk about top 14 on this show for sure, but since the French are in town,
yes.
the top 14 final was excellent. It was excellent, and also all the way our cast won the title. They're like the smallest team in the top 14, like they're a really, really local team, and they just sneaked into the playoffs. And in the quarterfinal, they beat Toulon, which is a team probably most Kiwis know about. In the semis, they beat Racing, which is the next biggest team, and they beat Montpellier in the first. So they pretty much beat the 3 big ones in the French league in weight. So it's hard to claim that, they didn't deserve to be champions, And the way they played the game, it was like a proper, fairy tale underdog story. They were just 100% energized, 100% passionate, They had the perfect game plan to clearly beat a team that is better than them on so many parts of the game. But I don't know about you guys, but I suspect you also love a good fairy tale underdog story, to see the little guy beat the big guy.
And that was there was lots of positive stuff on social media about that one. Another good thing about the weekend, obviously seeing Fiji win the London Sevens as well, and there was some sick rugby by them. There was some of the
offloading was
absolutely crazy.
Sick rugby, man,
sick
like
man.
Okay, cut it out now. You guys are white.
So so that was amazing. I try and keep things positive, but there are some but actually, this one's semi-positive because it's just so funny to see. But Samoa at the London Sevens. I don't know if you've seen this, the clip of this, where their player runs over into runs over the whitewash, is there ready to touch the ball down. His mate comes over and he goes, I'll give it to you, and throws a forward pass. With no enemy opposition players, sorry, not enemy. It's a bit harsh. No opposition players anywhere near them, and it was just like, what you're just given up a very easy try. Sorry,
is it a forward pass? There's no offside lines in the in-goal area.
It's still a forward pass, you can still knock on in the in-goal area. So it wasn't offside receiving the ball, so it wasn't a penalty. It was only a scrum. But still, it was, so still a scrum 5 rather than the penalty. But yeah, because he wasn't offside in the in-goal area, as you say. But yeah, no, that was funny to watch.
Absolutely.
And we are going to have to head down the negative side. Some of the bad things from the weekend: South Africa versus Wales. Now,
the question here is the first half hour, is that the worst we've ever seen in Test rugby? I'm prepared to say yes.
Well, I'm prepared to say I am so thankful that I couldn't watch the game because it wasn't available on the.
Oh, okay. I saw it. I stayed awake. It was a 4:00 kickoff in the morning here. I stayed awake to watch that.
Stayed awake. Why do you hate yourself?
Yeah. And
we can help you.
It would probably be even worse. It started right after the French final too, and the French final was like a big event, full stadium, massive occasion. It was everything you want the rugby game to be like. And then this comes.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. If nobody turns up to watch a rugby game, did it really happen?
No, but it was about 20,000. But the first half hour, I mean, they should probably bring that to like universities and do studies about it, because it was absolutely the worst rugby, the worst 30 minutes I ever seen in a rugby game. Ever. I thought like a funny quote that some people compared it to, there were like some schoolboy errors in that game, and said, no, that's insulting to the schoolboys, because it was way lower quality than that.
I would like to do a man of the match nomination. Andre managed to stay awake for the first half of that game, so he's my nomination for man of the match.
Come on, I watched the full game.
You watched the full game? 4 a.m. till 6 a.m. You watched the full game? Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you out
Friends
there...
and family of DrivingMaul are not eligible for prizes.
For those of you out there who think you're addicted to something, you're not. Here's a man who really is.
This is next level stuff. Oof.
Remember, Herman came from the dark side.
I do. But the good thing about
as they say, the footballers find
But the good thing, if you survive experience about this, whatever you do afterwards, it's going to feel pretty good, And
to be fair, I went to my, as Paul was aware, and Andre was aware, I was up in the Warkworth region, which is north of Auckland, about 50 minutes north of Auckland.
So basically, and, the map goes Auckland, a bridge, and they go, monsters live here. It's that.
Monsters. But my friends who are not into sport really at all, I'd taken my Sky decoder up with me under my arm, plugged it in, and I made them watch the Blues Rebels game.
No, but I got to give you like one scene in this game that just made it, because obviously the idea is to bring the game to the United States, to sell the game there, to make it grow. It's going to be a global sport.
No. It's not to do that. It's to make money for the South African and Welsh unions because they can't afford to keep their players.
But if you want to make money, you want to put on a little bit of a show, and hopefully you can make more money. But anyway, what happened, I think it was like in minute 6, it was scrum time. And they had to reset it so many times. I think it was about in minute 11 when the game actually started playing again. And right after that, they dropped the ball like after 10 seconds, another scrum, dropped the ball again after that. It was like a 10-minute period. But it was maybe like 30 seconds effective play, And here we are selling our beautiful sport to the Americans, I don't think we're going to buy it. I'm not
Yeah, no. Okay, there are a number of things wrong, and I'm going to actually go a bit sort of American rugby nerdy on you. So we had 3 Major League Rugby games on that weekend. We had the college rugby championships on that weekend, and then they tried to put on an international game as well. Sorry, but you've also upcoming. You've got the USA versus Canada, the USA versus Russia, and the USA versus Scotland. This is within a month. People are not going to travel for this game. If you put one on in November, when there's no other games around it, and people had time to save up their money, like they're going to do with the rugby weekend, when they're going to play a triple header. So they're going to play the American women are going to play the English women international. You've got America versus, I've forgotten who they're playing now. Sorry, and then your Ireland versus Italy.
Maori's playing there too.
Maybe probably the USA versus the Maori All Blacks, and then you've got Ireland versus Italy as a triple header game. People will turn up for that because it's the only rugby in America in the entirety of November, because America will then travel to Europe for their November games. When you've got all these other games going on, or this college game rugby, or it was the wrong game at the wrong time in the wrong place, it was entirely badly thought up by Rugby International marketing, and hence why World Rugby has had to step in and bail it out.
Yeah, I mean, here's another thing. I mean, I can see it makes sense for Wales and South Africa to play, but it's a certain, if that game had been played in South Africa or in Cardiff, it would have been a much bigger crowd. And I think there would have been a much bigger chance they could have made money out of it too, if it actually been played there. I mean,
here's I'll say something out. So my boss, my manager at work is South African, and so we were talking about the game this morning. He tried to watch it and he couldn't make it all the way through either. He saw the 10-minute scrum, but what we talked about was the fact that that's Rassie Erasmus's first game.
Yeah, I mean,
you want to start your tenure off in a positive manner. He should have chucked his strongest side out there, or something close to his side.
But that would have messed up his plans for England. I mean, to play a test in the United States a week before you're going to play England in Bloemfontein, and it's going to totally take away their advantage of playing on altitude too.
Okay, so before we spend the entire hour talking about a bad game that no one enjoyed. Perhaps we should move on. So yes, it was a disaster. It shouldn't have happened. Yeah. Everyone knew it was going to be a disaster, and both teams managed to make it a disaster by their selections as well. So,
my final word. It was a sad day for rugby.
Yes. It was. I think we can agree on that one. So, moving on. If we ignore Italy, the average ranking of the Six Nations teams at the moment, world rankings, is 4.8, whereas it's 5.25 for the Rugby Championship teams. What's happened to the North-South gap?
Very little.
Very little, but
because it's so tight. It's so tight.
Now, come on. 2 years ago, number one in the world would be New Zealand, and then two of the next two second or fourth or third and fourth will be Australia and South Africa, and they would occupy three of the top four positions in the world. That's now disappeared. South Africa are now down in eighth, I think it is. Seventh, because France are in eighth, and Australia are down in fourth. You've got Ireland in second, England in third, Wales in fifth, Scotland in sixth. It's the whole north-south gap has just evaporated.
I don't know if it's 3 words or 2 words. New Zealand coaches.
Ooh, you're so humble, Ashwin.
You could almost chuck in the New Zealand players.
All right, discussion done. Paul. What's the next one?
But England don't have a New Zealand coach. England don't have a New Zealand coach.
I was going to say he's even born in New Zealand as well. Apparently, that's what I've heard. Eddie Jones was born in New Zealand, apparently.
But I can have a go on a series.
Well, then he's got a New Zealand parent, or he's born in New Zealand, something like that.
Eddie Jones? No, his mom is Japanese. He's half Japanese, Eddie Jones. Half Japanese. No, he's half Australian, half Japanese.
Place of birth, Tasmania, Australia. But I will. Born in Tasmania to a Japanese American mother and an Australian father. See, you it's like Pavlova. These New Zealanders try and take everything that's Australian.
No, actually, on a serious note,
and Crowded House. Sorry,
you got to think, because we're always serious, aren't we? We're always serious.
Totally
serious pose on. The conditions, I think the playing conditions in the Northern Hemisphere have helped, obviously, with the school levels to increase. You've got dry dry fields, the fields are covered stadiums, all these sorts of things are helping to play a better level of rugby. You go around playing on a muddy paddock week in, week out, it's pretty hard to increase your skill levels, isn't it? So I think a lot of it has to do with the improvements in playing conditions that allows the players to play good rugby and to learn and get used to playing good rugby instead of playing 10-man rugby. You don't have to play 10-man rugby anymore.
Yeah. So to go through, so just to follow up on that point and just to educate folks, if we look at the pitches now in the UK, the Glasgow Warriors and Cardiff Blues both play on 3G pitches, artificial pitches, in the Pro 14. In the Aviva Premiership, Saracens, Newcastle Falcons and Worcester Warriors all play on 3G pitches or artificial pitches. Exeter Chiefs, the Saints and Gloucester have all installed hybrid pitches, the same they have at Twickenham, which is those woven pitches, which means they can train and play on the same pitch. So more than half the pitches in the Aviva Premiership are either woven pitches or totally artificial, and we're getting the same way in the Pro 14 as well. The standard of pitches, as you say, has improved markedly. The only one that's really bad still in the Premiership is Bath, who are trying to redevelop their ground, and because of the whole trust and charity status of the ground that they use, it's very difficult for them to improve that. But just about all the other pitches have been improved out of sight. Because Wasps have also got a woven pitch as well. So the majority of those pitches now are much better. And one of the things we've talked about with wet weather rugby is it's not the handling that's the problem; it's the assured footedness. If you know you can step, you can still play rugby. But if you can't step and you think you're going to fall over, then you can't play rugby, basically.
Or the consistency of what the ball's going to do as well.
As in bounces.
It's going to plug. It doesn't bounce. It plugs. It sticks. So yeah.
I mean, for me, it's in many ways it's a perfect storm because I agree with all of it. There have been clear improvements in the Northern Hemisphere. There's no denying that. Pitches is one part of that. Kiwi coat is another part of that. Also putting way more resources into structures to build up the grassroots is also put in that. I mean, look at, is it Rugby Football Union? They put something like in a development project. We have about £100 million in investing now. We're aiming to building 100 artificial pitches for rugby.
Well, yeah, I think the £100 million was, or it's either 50 million or 100 million, was purely on building artificial pitches. They've also been throwing money at the club academies, and we've seen the improvement in that from about 2011, where England when they won the Junior Rugby World Cup or Junior Rugby World Championship, and their performances at the youth levels has improved markedly over the last few years. I mean, exactly.
That's where you can start trace to see the change to. Especially Australia, they haven't qualified for the semi-final in the under-20s for 5-6 years now. And at the same time, England is always playing the final. England is almost as good as New Zealand the last 5-6 years. They're pretty much even. And same thing, South Africa have dropped off a little bit there too. But the other thing also, it comes from the other side of the fence. New Zealand still sits at number one. But the play, and New Zealand can handle the player drain still. We know there is a critical point when it's coming when New Zealand also going to reconsider how we're thinking about this. But it already has hurt Australia and South Africa to a point where it's clear that both the Super Rugby sides and the national team have dropped some in quality. So you take like this, small steps back for South Africa and Australia, and we all be small steps forward up in the Northern. You create a perfect storm. And now it's super, super even, but maybe the worrying sign for the Southern Hemisphere is that the trend is actually that Northern Hemisphere is keep on improving and the Southern Hemisphere is keep on losing players. But it's not like we see but in a year this is all going to change. No, it's more likely this is going to continue.
Yeah, and I think that's been seen in this last week where 3 more players have left the Lions in Super Rugby to head to Gloucester. The most successful side the most successful South African side in Super Rugby over the last 2-3 years and they're now bleeding players, which they hadn't done until Ackerman had left them. So yeah, that's clearly going to be an issue.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll just throw this one out here. There's a question that Andre might be able to answer. Actually, he's been closest to what's happening possibly in South Africa. A lot of their schoolboy teams actually are very successful, and there's been some global schoolboy competitions. The last one I remember reading about was actually in South Africa, so that would have helped. But even the ones at external of South Africa, their schoolboy teams do very well. So there's obviously something's happening between the connection between schoolboy rugby and their under-20s team, because what Herman alluded to just now is the fact that their under-20s team hasn't really been performing too well. The last time they performed was when they played the under-20s here in New Zealand, and they had a guy called Henri Pollard at number 10.
Well, doping is part of that. They did doping testing of South African schoolboy players and found that something like 60 to 70% failed. It was anonymous testing. That's about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah,
sounds like government-sponsored doping. If you're getting those kind of numbers,
it was crazy numbers. That failed. But I say that was about 4 or 5 years ago now. So hopefully that's been cleared up, and education has improved that. I mean, in this last year, we've seen the level of doping testing in schoolboy rugby in New Zealand has stepped up, and that only happens during tournament time, which is the wrong time to be testing, because most of it's going to be out of if you get caught during season, that's appalling. If you get it's all done out of season. So, but yeah, they realise that there is, whilst they won't say it too loudly, they know that there is a problem at schoolboy level in New Zealand. In the UK, in England, the RFU actually funded some research into interviewing so again, it's anonymous, by university professors to do proper qualified research into doping by underage or by schoolboy levels, because they know that's where the problem is. The pressure's there to get that professional contract to be, because if you don't make it at that point, making it later is very difficult, and that's where a lot of the pressure is to do doping is at that level, and hence, if you'll notice, I've named countries across the world for that. It is not it's not me picking on one country. This is something that's happening globally. That steroids are very easy to access. And after you come off them, you can take them, you can come off them, and be clean, but you'll maintain 25% of the muscle gain. So you'll have some of the benefit for life.
What's the split?
I done a lot of. We can probably take a special show for this sometime if you want to talk about this. But I done a lot of research about doping. And what usually is missed is two things that most people don't know about doping, but the real benefits of it. It's number one, it's the recovery time when you're training, because you can actually, if you do a hard session, leg session in the gym, you need to rest for 48 hours before you're even ready to touch those legs again. If you're on the juice when you're doing this, you're ready to go within 12 hours again, which means during a preseason time of 6 weeks, you can actually put in almost like 3 to 4 times more sessions in that period. And obviously, if you train more, you will get more effect out of it. That is probably the most misunderstood effect of it. People think like just because you're doing the gear or doing the juice, you're just going to get better. No, you have to train really, really, really hard while using it. But it allows you to do it, because even if top level athletes, if they would go into an insane training period and try to do like 2 leg sessions a day, they will break down within 2-3 weeks. But you don't do that if you're on the gear. And the other thing about the gear, when it's like the most effective, is to do when you're doing the rehab training, obviously, because your body is going to heal much faster. That is when most professional athletes are actually using doping. And also the chances that you're going to get tested when you're doing real rehab training is almost not close to zero. They don't test you then.
Yeah, no, I've done a couple of. So one of the things that the RFU do, which is commendable of them, because I don't think any other rugby union in the world does it, is they produce a annual doping report, and in that they say how often they test their players and people, and effectively as a professional athlete, you are likely to get tested once a year.
Well,
So,
I mean,
but I mean,
after you've done your test, you pretty much know you have like a 9-month window at least, where you're free to go.
now, some of it is
that's not scary. That's not scary if you're scared to get caught.
It's not, and also to be fair, it is risk based. So there is an element. So I mean, one of the funny things was, so Matt Stevens got banned for cocaine use, I think, for a year or 2 years, and his very first game back, he was drug tested, and he said he joked, said, "I thought this was supposed to be random." And so clearly, it is risk based. They do listen to the players, and if players want to, they can anonymously name drop and say, "Hey, this club is doing X, Y, Z," or "I hear rumours out of this club," and then that club or that player will get tested more frequently. So it is risk based, and that kind of stuff can go on, but still, you don't get tested very often. And it is the way it is. Testing costs a lot of money, yes. And obviously player welfare is important, but also performance is too.
Yep.
So moving on to actually, so we're halfway in. We've got through 2 questions, and now this is the question that blew up before we even got on air. For those of you that might not know, there's been some news out of Auckland today, in that the Blues chairman has decided to resign at the end of this season, or I'm not quite sure if resign is the right word, but anyway, he's leaving at the end of this season, and I just want to quickly quote him here to make sure, and if Ashwin could put himself on mute so he doesn't laugh out loud at these comments, it would probably be useful. So here is what Mr. Carter had to say. "My personal view is that the board needs more rugby expertise on it." Well, we agree with that one, I think. "And for that reason, I have told the board it is time for me to step aside and allow shareholders to consider bringing in someone that can make a greater contribution to the rugby programme. We all believe we are close to unlocking the playing potential of this club.
Ooh.
And have the right people in place to do so. I believe someone with different experiences as the chairman can blah, blah, blah. It's been a privilege, yada, yada, yada." Actually, where was the other bit where he said actually that... so this bit isn't in quotes, but it says, "Carter said, well, the Blues business model was on a strong footing," and I'm not sure their business model is, to be fair. The on-field performances have not matched the effort and intensity implied by the board and management.
The board work hard enough, but not to.
And whilst Ashwin is throwing up in his bucket over there at those comments.
Well, if you are the devil's advocate here.
Go on, let me at least ask the question first before we dive in. Okay. And so, with change at the top, are the Blues going to be title contenders next year? Go.
No, but first thing that come up to my head, because considering how terrible the Blues has been on the field, even a terrible board off the field can probably still say we perform better than you boys on the field. I mean, it's a tough one. It's maybe a draw. Because let's not pretend like the guys on the field are doing their job, because even me, who has no emotional connection to the Blues whatsoever, actually I'm starting to get one, because I'm getting frustrated watching them, because it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And that's what I'm starting talking with Ashwin before, and I talked to another Blues mate earlier today. Where are the rants? Where are the real rants? I'm sitting here with 2 hardcore Blues fans, and you're sitting here and being so smart about it. When it's time to blow the pipes, is it not time to blow the pipes? I think it's time. It's rant time, boys. It's rant time. Give it to the Blues now. We're ruining your life. We ruined your life, Ashwin. We ruined your emotions. You give them so much money, and what do they do for you? What have they done for you lately?
There's so much I can get. But this is first of all, I have to address
Bring it on.
I can't believe that Rudy Carter said yada, yada, yada. I just,
Was it him who said yada yada?
I said yada yada. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's so laughable on so many levels. It's so laughable on so many levels. What he's commented on, the fact that there is no way in hell that if the Blues as a business model is on a good financial footing, that is by a miracle, not by good management. There is so much off the field that you won't see, Herman. Obviously, you've made the comments about the frustrations on the field. You should see the frustrations off the field. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm treated like excrement because I can't say the S word. So it's just like,
I hear you.
It's like excrement. It's just like, it's just like, I don't know what to say. It's just like, yeah, I was saying to Paul, I was saying to Herman before that, it's just like, as a Blues fan, there's so much wrong at the Blues that you get to a state of despair that the words just can't come out of the frustration. And so mix that in with our English upbringing, and it's just like, it's just too hard to come out with the stuff. The reality is it's the board is the problem, okay? We see that if the board, to say that there's not enough rugby now on the board is just absolute bollocks, because at the end of the day, it's now a business, so it's about running a good business. It's about running a good business model. And a good business model is your product. What's your product? Your product is rugby. Therefore, if your product is crap, then your board is crap. That's the end of story. We can talk about shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, which is the players, which is the coaches, and all the support staff. At the end of the day, if the board is dysfunctional, which it is, that is the biggest issue. The board doesn't need Tony Carter to leave. The board needs a clean out. The board needs to be cleared out. The fact is that Tana Umaga should never have been appointed. But I think Paul and I have discussed this, or I have with somebody, is the fact is that who's going to come to this club? Who's going to come here and coach? Who high-level coach is going to come here and take that? I tell you what, it's someone with some kahunas, because some objectives of getting the coach of the All Blacks. Because if you want to become the coach of the All Blacks, you turn this Blues side around and you're lay down Nazir for a All Blacks position.
But that's fair, because basically if someone comes in and turn around the Blues, you are like in pole position for the All Blacks job. Bang, because you.
But they can't attract that person.
Yeah, but it's not going to be easy. Sorry, Paul.
If Tana had turned the Blues around and made them moderately successful, even win a championship, he still would not have been looked at, I don't believe, as an All Blacks candidate. I just don't. He would have had so little experience. He would have been. I think John Mitchell had type scenario going back all then, when they just had so little experience as a top level coach. You got to have good level of experience as top level, not just a few years at a Super Rugby level. Scott Robertson might prove me wrong.
So,
but if I may,
let me. I just want to rip Carter to pieces. So Carter has been there for 5 years, which effectively takes him back to the start of Sir John Kirwan's tenure in 2013. So he was the guy that headed up the crowd that brought in John Kirwan. Okay. Now, this is a board that in 2014, half of them would not sit in the other room with the other half because they couldn't talk to each other. Okay? And they couldn't actually agree whether to sack or whether to re-sign John Kirwan. They had to call in New Zealand Rugby to get them to agree to sit in the same room. This is how dysfunctional the board is that he has been running. And for this guy to then say that we are on a strong financial we're on a strong footing off the field, and it's how and we have not seen the performances on the field that from the efforts off the field is an absolute farce. Now, things have improved since 2014. They will sit in the room together and talk to each other. That's a good start. But
that's how you build a championship team, huh?
Well, now you need a level of honesty. You need to be able to discuss things and have honesty between you, and that requires some arguments. That's fine, but to get to a level where you're not even willing to sit in the same room as each other is a joke. Now, half the board were from the financial investor. I've forgotten who the guy's name is that put in something like 49% of it, and the other half of the board are put in by the Auckland Rugby. Now, for the investor and
Barry
Bolton. Okay, so for Barry Bolton's guys and for the Auckland Rugby guys, not to get on to that level is a disgrace. That's not how you run business. Okay, and that shows that this was basically a plaything. This was not a proper business investment by him. This was his plaything that he thought he could control and do what he felt like in a kind of Larry Ellison, America's Cup style mess around. We'll have catamarans rather than single hull boats. No, he brought in and said, I'm having John Kirwan. In John Kirwan's second year, he went and said, you know what, I fancy another shiny plaything. I'm going to go buy myself Benji Marshall. And unfortunately, John Kirwan went, who is this guy? He can't play rugby, so I'm not going to try him. I'm just going to deliberately not play him, so he has no chance of ever being a good rugby player. Now, after getting rid of Gareth Anscombe, he only had one choice, and that choice was to play Benji at 10 and just go for it and see if it works or not. Unfortunately, he bottled it and didn't even try it, and it was an absolute disaster. And that's basically we've seen something similar happening ever since then, and it's been an absolute joke. So for this guy to come out and say that they're strong off the pitch when we've got members of Parliament coming on Twitter last weekend tweeting about how funny it is that they get a 5 kilogram bag of potatoes as they leave the ground. Now, I enjoyed my potatoes. Harry Barr are a fantastic potato producer, but they should not be. You should not be having someone like them should not be able to sponsor a major team, or basically the largest club team in the country. We're talking about Auckland is the largest, is a quarter of the population of New Zealand. The team that represents the rugby team, which is the primary sport in New Zealand, and the club with the largest population in New Zealand should not be sponsored by a local potato manufacturer, as wonderful as their potatoes are, because they should be sponsored by Mars. They should be sponsored by large multinational corporations, because that's where that's who this company, who this sort of club should be happening. And it's not being run properly. It's not being run well. And sorry, that has been a rant.
I want to share a story I come about last week too. It was actually a great interview with Brian O'Driscoll interviews Aisana Sea. Now he finished his career in Leinster. I really recommend everyone to listen to it. Like, it's a really personal one, and he really talk about the hard stuff in life and hard stuff in his rugby career. But we also talked about his comeback when he came back to the Blues. Was it in 2011 or 2012? And was in the coaching staff. And he came back as a mental skills coach. And Brian O'Driscoll asked, says, did you have any experience of that? No. So how did you feel about it when you start working about it? I was terrified, he said. Then that's why he basically finished, because he tried for a while to learn while doing, but he realized pretty fast that this is impossible. But I also think it was pretty clear listening to Aisana Seva that he was holding back, that he was inside the Blues organization and realized pretty fast, no, this is not working at all.
And also, I suppose, John Kirwan also didn't. John Kirwan, wonderful rugby player, fantastic person, and he's done a lot of work for mental health and charities off the pitch. As a coach, useless. So a couple of anecdotal parts of that. One, we had, and I can't remember if it was. Both Naholo and Fekitoa both were on Auckland's books and on the Blues books before they went down to the Highlanders. And I can't remember, it was an interview with one of those two, and I can't remember which one it was now. But they said, I'm enjoying being at the Highlanders because they tell me what I can do, not just what I can't do. That is disastrous. My best ever hockey as a hockey player, and I'm a very low-level hockey player, was in Hong Kong, where I had a coach who told me what I could do and actually said, hey, Paul, you've got some skills. Now, previous to that, I basically just tackled and hit the ball long. Because, hey, as a defender, that's how I'd always play my football, and I'll play my hockey the same way. So from personal experience, you play best when someone tells you, encourages you, you can do well. And for a coach to just tell people they can't do well and what they can't do constantly is never going to help them. Another example, he had a player who was on 48 caps, and there were two games before the end of the season, and then he was going to go to another club. John Kirwin deliberately didn't pick him for that second to last game, so he would not and didn't put him on the bench, so he would not make 50 caps. Now, let's be honest. Under John Kirwin's tenure, the Blues were never in the hunt for playoff position. So picking players was never about, oh, let's win the last two games and make the playoffs. Here's a guy who's played 48 games for your club. That takes a couple of years and some investment, and you deliberately don't pick him for the last two games so he can't make 50 caps. That's just spiteful. And if you do that kind of stuff, the players are not going to play for you. And that wasn't his last season.
Well, but I think, again, this has come back to where you talked from the outside and what you're telling me now. This all comes down from higher up in the level. I mean, if you have a rotten culture, things going to be allowed to rotten down under you too. I mean, if you have a proper board, proper management, these things would be found out right away. I mean, imagine a trainer trying to do this. If a coach tried to do this in Crusaders, their board would be on him like smacking on the hand right away. What are you doing? They would. It would never happen.
That's why I come back to the thing, is that, the players, the coaches, changing them was just deck chairs on the Titanic. At the end of the day, when you look at the way that the marketing of the organisation's done and other functions as well, the treatment of the season ticket holders, as well as the on-field performance, it's all broken. It's still broken. The whole club is broken. I've given up talking. So there's a Facebook page run by another Paul called Blue Supporters for Life, but you don't go and comment on there because he's sycophantic fans that basically that nothing's wrong, and it's just like everything is rosy in the Garden of Eden, quite ironically, because if you go and say anything that's derogatory or detrimental, you sort of get slapped down, sort of thing. So you have to basically you have to be absolutely accurate in the way that you put something. So, it's difficult. There's not the upheaval to, in the fan base, like what you've just said. Where's the rant? Where's the ranting? Where's the people burning the street sort of thing? Turning cars over.
Yeah. I mean, it's time. It's time.
Not that we're a bit too polite for that,
But I had a conversation with a couple of Kiwi mates here in Chiang Mai on the weekend. And we were admittedly, we had a few beers, but we were starting talking about the future, about Super Rugby and so on. If it would come to this, what if we need to cut one team in New Zealand in the future? Which team should be cut? And it would probably never happen, but right now the most logical choice would be to cut the Blues, because no one cares. No one. Actually, I'm pretty sure we're losing money too.
I'll rephrase that for you. The ideological team to cut would be the Blues, because the logical team is not the Blues, because that's what I'm saying. This would be ideologically the team to cut will be the Blues.
Yeah, because this is so weird, but you can even come to this conclusion, because as Paul was into before, they are in the biggest rugby market in the world. You're in the capital, in the most rugby mad country in the world. It should be. I mean, it's unbelievable how you fail in Auckland. That it goes to show how. From the outside, sorry.
There's another culprit. There's another culprit in all this saga as well, because I think we've ascertained that the problem is actually at board level. Okay, I mean, obviously everything flows down from everything's broken, and therefore it starts at board level. But the reality is that there's another organisation that's hugely culpable in the failure of rugby in Auckland at that level, and that's the New Zealand Rugby Union. The New Zealand Rugby Union has let this happen. This has happened on Steve Tew's watch, and yet nobody has pointed the finger at Steve Tew and says, you've effed up.
Okay, but let's put it like this. How much can he actually do? How much can he actually do?
No, he can do huge. At the end of the day, all the Super Rugby franchises are ultimately owned by the New Zealand Rugby Union. Even though they've got ownership models, the full control, when they look at those contracts, the contracts are built so that the New Zealand Rugby Union maintains control of all the overall
Yes, but is it like even in the thinking, the business model for New Zealand Rugby to micromanage the Super Rugby teams? I don't think so. I mean, it would.
Okay, no, it's not. When they were brought in, because the board would not sit in the same room, they replaced all of the Auckland Rugby board members, basically. Now, sure, they want and need, well, whether they need or not, the money by the private investor, and there are legal operations around that. But basically what they did was they basically replaced the Auckland Rugby members on the board to get it back to at least functioning, even if they didn't agree. Now, so yes, they are part of it. Sure, they don't micromanage all the clubs, but all the rugby unions, but they do say things like, they do set some very strict things around. If you notice, all the websites look the same. All their media managers will say who they are told who they can and can't deal with. Hence, I don't have press accreditation, never have had, and never will do from a Super Rugby organisation, because New Zealand Rugby doesn't want people like me to have access to the players. I've never been able to talk to a player through the Blues. I have through various. I've been able to talk to players and coaches through Mitre 10 Cups, through provincial sides, but not through Super Rugby, because there's no way that New Zealand Rugby would let that happen. It's not a Super Rugby thing; it's a New Zealand Rugby thing. And the thing is that Steve Chu only realises there's one thing, and one thing only, that's important to him, and that is the All Blacks brand and the money that brings in. All the Super Rugby franchises make a loss. All the Super Rugby franchises are subsidised by the All Blacks, and it's all about that's all that matters to him, is how much is that brand and the money that brings in, because that funds the entirety of New Zealand Rugby.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably why.
And the biggest opposition and the biggest competition to the All Blacks in Auckland is an opposing code, and the fact is that the All Blacks play 2 games in the city a year, and he expects that to be enough to sort of compete against a team that's playing every second week, that the opposition code is playing every second week in the city. And it's just like, you know, the other thing is that a few years ago, this was like about 4 years ago now, I guess, 3-4 years ago, they came on and said, we're going to run an inquiry into what's going wrong with rugby in Auckland, because it's not just the Blues level, it's also at Mitre 10 Cup level as well. So we're going to have a look. I never saw a result come out of that inquiry or whatever they ran. Never saw anything.
No. So let's sweep that under the carpet. But I mean, if you walk around Auckland, and particularly southish Auckland, I mean, let's Mount Eden or Sylvia Park isn't South Auckland, but that's still fairly central. But you see people wearing New Zealand Warriors jerseys. You occasionally, very occasionally, see an All Blacks jersey. You never, ever see a Blues jersey. So, yeah, the people would rather wear a Warriors Rugby League jersey than they would a Blues jersey by a factor of 100. Their jersey sales are way off the roof of the Blues, and that's give away jerseys for free, because hey, you need the publicity. Stop charging for jerseys. It's actually a money loser by charging.
Well, if I want to twist the knife a little bit with you guys before we move on, just to be a little bit mean to you now, because
a little bit more. Have you not heard how much pain we've been spouting?
I gotta make you suffer here. Because as we all know, there's like one shining light in this Blues team, and that is the brilliant Rico Ioane. But he has not signed the new deal yet, has he? You think I think he will stay in New Zealand, but you sure he's going to stay in the Blues for next season? Would you stay in the Blues if you were Rico Ioane? Would you stay in the Blues?
I think he'll stay.
I think he'll stay as well.
There's no guarantees in life, but
if you were Rico Ioane, would you stay in the Blues?
If you were anybody in the squad, would you stay?
I mean, every other Super Rugby team wants him, for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, look, we've seen it happen before, Herman. I don't know, because there's Ali Williams, who was a true blue, bled blue Aucklander, and he went and played for the Crusaders for 1 or 2 seasons. So it's happened before.
Oh, wait. Okay. So last season, I'm not seeing it this season. But last season, maybe that's because I've not actually seen Auckland Rugby post this season, to be honest. But last season, Auckland Rugby would post on a regular basis saying, "Wow, look, we have players playing in all 5 Super Rugby franchises." It's like, that's okay, nice, well done, congratulations, you have good players. But that's not really what we're supposed. That's not kind of how it's supposed to work, is it? So yeah. Do Auckland boys born and bred go play elsewhere? Yes, all of the time. Now, but the question is, do you actually, at the end of the day, he's been successful by being amongst his support network in Auckland. Does he want to risk that by leaving his support network, going elsewhere? I'm not sure that's a clever idea. I think actually New Zealand Rugby should actually...
He is a bit of a homeboy.
Exactly. I think New Zealand Rugby should...
all the stuff that you've seen.
You boys are scared. I can hear your voices here. You are scared.
We're not anymore because we just... We've given up on the Blues. We just don't care. We know they're going to lose every game anyway, so what does it really matter whether Rico stays or not?
Rico going to play Crusaders next season.
Good luck to him, and hope he enjoys it. But
twisted eye.
It's just so depressing following Blues that, yeah.
It's that side of despair.
So
it's just like,
anyway.
but
I just noted here. I mean, we talked about his contract like 2-3 months ago, and then it's just been quiet.
No, I think he'll stay, and I think you're right. I think if you're his agent, you play this up big time. You say, oh dear, why should he stay in Auckland? Blah 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 blah. Look at all these big money offers he's getting from abroad.
Yeah, but also, shall we risk our prime, and from MCR's perspective, this is one of our prime talents. Should we risk to keeping him in this losing culture 1 year before the World Cup? Maybe he gets the Auckland bug too, Is it not better we move into a safer environment, And by all accounts, whatever he was up to this weekend, it doesn't seem it's maybe not the best environment,
No, actually, I'm happy this happened this weekend. That news is fantastic.
It means that someone cares.
Somebody cares. So, one of the things I remember coming out of the Wasps environment many years ago now, actually, when Cipriani was in his first stint in the UK, and Josh Lucy. So Cipriani had just broken onto the England scene. He was a new wonder kid. He'd had a couple of test matches. Came back to Wasps, had a training game, clearly mouthed off a little bit, how wonderful am I? And Josh Lucy turned round and smacked him in the face and knocked him on his backside. And it was because, hey, look, know your place, and showing, and having arguments in training we're talking about here extremely motivated people to get to this sort of stage.
Yeah, but Paul, this was not on the training, this was on a Saturday night. Are you sure we did argue about Blues performance, or we were playing Xbox, and arguing about that, who was cheating who? We don't know.
We don't know, but
I would put my money on the Xbox for sure. That's I think the Blues players are much more into that than their own performance.
So Gwen
playing FIFA or NBA or whatever.
Okay, boys. I think when we're getting told in the live chat, Gwen goes, I was going to ask what's been going on at the Blues, but I think it's been well covered now. It has. We just spent the last half hour talking about it. So
they deserve it.
Okay. Well, question for you: are we going to do an hour and a half show and cover the last 2 questions, or are we going to? We are. Ashwin,
I'm ready.
You good for the next half hour?
I think the next question shouldn't take us too long. I think that'll be quick. We'll try it and then we'll judge it from there.
Okay.
But to be fair, I thought Blues deserved that half an hour. It's been that bad.
It has, yes.
Yeah, look, I've been trying to. We probably could do a separate show on the Blues if we want to dissect every corner of all the functions that are going wrong.
Yep. Someone says, Andre, Rico should stay and help build the team. No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. He's a young kid. He shouldn't be expected to build the team. But I think he should stay because I think his support network in Auckland is good for him. So I think that's a different matter as to his support network off the pitch and away from the club. I think is all good. So I think he should stay. But I don't think he should be staying for Blues' sake, and I don't think he should be trying to build the club. It's not his responsibility. He's got other things to achieve. He's a young kid. Don't put that on his shoulders. someone like Sonny Bill Williams, who's a much more experienced guy. He can try and build the club and that kind of stuff, but you don't put it on a young kid like him. That's anyway.
Hasn't he already captained the Blues, Rico? He actually has this season. He has already captained them.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being a leader on the pitch and trying to build the club. I can't remember him doing that. But no, you don't captain from the wing, for crying out loud. No,
but he's already been captain. He's already been captain this season. Not from start, but he's captained the side after some subs already. I'm telling you, he has.
I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
We better move along to question 4.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
we're going to do it.
Yes, question 4. Otherwise, we'll be here at midnight. Right, we're moving on. No more Blues talk until we get to reviewing the Super Rugby tables in question 5. So, question 4. Which June tour is the most anticipated, closest, most interesting? However you want to put it, for that's coming up. And the Blues going to go playing World Series against the Force does not count. Yeah. Sorry, next.
Wallabies Australia are tightly followed about.
Sorry, Wallabies Australia. We're going to play rugby league against
Wallabies Ireland, of course, and Springboks England. Those two are like. That's pretty much all you want from a Test series, at least from ahead. They look like crackers, and to be fair. It seems like the French have something up to it. I mean, only a month ago, everyone was pretty certain this is a 3-0 white. I mean, All Blacks are still major favorites, but I think the French going to bring it. The more I follow this team, the more I read about it, they're going to bring it.
Yeah, I think the biggest factor that's coming out. I mean, obviously, people aren't aware until things start coming out into the ether. Is the fact is that the French had the best defence in the Six Nations. Now you've got a team that, like the All Blacks, if you shut down their attack, what have they got left? You know, how do they control the game? They usually manage the game on the back of their attack. So the French defence is going to be up there. One is expecting it to be.
I mean, I wish I was at that press conference with Steve Hansen when he said his stats here, because the French. He said the French right now have the best defence in the rugby world, and they have 92.5% complete tackles, and they only let in 1.5 try per game. And that proves to him that they are the best. And my comment with him would be, if they have those stats after the Test series against the All Blacks, yes, then we agree, Steve. Then they by far have the best defense in the world. No argument. But let's wait till after the series. Okay.
The other thing you could say with that is that if you're tackling that much and yes, you're a very successful team at tackling, but you didn't do a lot of attacking and score enough points.
But what I can see is it seems like there is a good vibe going on with the French team. And if they really, really bring it, yes, then I can see they can make real troubles for the All Blacks team. But to be fair, I mean, not all my friends who support the All Blacks agree with this, but usually the ones who really deep into it, really deep into the All Blacks, they're trying to get inside Steve Hansen's head and so on, like you, Ash. They probably would say the best outcome in this series would be a really tight 2-1 win for the All Blacks, and the French really bring it for all 3 tests. That would be the perfect preparation for the World Cup. If the French come here and not interested, All Blacks get an easy 3-0 whitewash, that's not going to help anyone except the All Black fanboys who want to boast, yeah, we beat everyone, but it's going to be holes in the,
Look, we've talked about there are, obviously with Crotty coming back and looks like he should be alright, Whitelock coming back into the second row, that should help things out as well. When those two were missing, that was looking like a very different team, especially with Sonny Bill also missing. The midfield and the second row were looking decidedly...
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk a lot more, but it's interesting. But still, I say, it's even, you still have bad luck with injuries here, because the 4 key players you have out injured now are probably the 4 positions where you don't have replacements who are like for like. You have no one like Dane Coles. He's been away for a long time, but you still have no one like him. You definitely have no one like Brodie Retallick. You have no one like Kieran Reid, and some people don't rate Sonny Bill Williams, but at Test level, his defense is immense. You have no one who can tackle and do pill for that. And remember, who is the captain in the French team who come here in flying form? Basterout. And Sonny Bill Williams, I could see him be one, he could tame him. He can niggle Basterout and get the upper hand on him. Ryan Crotty, yeah, as smart as he is, he's still going to stop like 130 kilos, like running machine coming at him, you know.
And he's going to get concussed.
Yes, that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. You know? So, I mean,
sad, so sad but true. Sad but true.
Just to bring some stats to this, I put out a tweet. Sorry? Stats?
Bring
We love
stats to this.
Exactly. Let's bring some facts. Well, actually, when it's a poll on Twitter, I'm not sure you can really call it facts. But anyway, but it's stats. I put out a tweet 7 hours ago, and it's running for another 16 hours. So please do go in there and vote and let us know. Which June tour are you most looking forward to? We're looking forward to the most, I said. 18% have said New Zealand, France. 38% have said Australia, Ireland. 34% have said South Africa, England. And 10% have said Argentina, Wales. Now, I get the Australia, Ireland, we're talking about fourth versus second in the world. And home advantage is with the fourth team. So that should be a really competitive series. South Africa seventh in the world against England third, except England had a disastrous Six Nations. So that actually is looking like a competitive series as well. New Zealand, France, I get. But Argentina, Wales are only at only 10%. I actually think the Argentina, Wales one is actually more interesting or potentially more interesting actually than the New Zealand, France one.
Well, I have a pretty strong feeling that Pumas is going to win both tests fairly easy.
Off the back of their Hagiwari's.
Yeah. And they have look at it. Pumas also playing. They have like perfect preparation. They had a bye here. They have been home for several weeks now, just preparing, and it's the same team, you know. They are going to be so prepared for this, you know. They have absolutely no excuse whatsoever. And Wales coming from like Miami and the humid, and now it's winter in Argentina now too, and we're going to go out in the countryside. I mean, and Wales is very far from their first selection.
You're saying that, the Hagiwari's been sitting there, with rested, at home. It gets better for them because they'll have a couple of players that'll actually come out of European rugby to bolster the team as well.
No, not for this tour, but they will for the Rugby Championship later on. Which I actually think is a smart move because give the European boys a rest during the June, and then for the Rugby Championship, they actually had a holiday, and they, instead of doing preseason with the European club, they're going to play the Rugby Championship instead. So, we're going to talk more about that later, but the Rugby Championship. But also, I'm looking forward to see, our two wooden spooners in each hemisphere, to see Japan, Italy too. I actually think that's going to be pretty entertaining rugby. Both of them are like overall a little bit up. Japan, Italy. That's like the warm-up game.
Two Northern Hemisphere sides.
The Japanese actually play.
Yeah, but Japan belongs to Japan. They're adopted.
Well, actually, sorry, I just want to take a step back because you're heavily optimistic around Argentina. Christian's come out and said Argentina will win the series against Wales. I'm not convinced. I'm expecting a 2-0 victory to Wales in this one.
Are we going to put some money on that, Paul? What do you want to put?
I'm not a, well, so,
I'm ready.
I'm not a gambling man, but
take off your Lions jersey, eh?
But yeah, no, I'm surprised. I mean, we're talking about Wales, fifth in the world, just beaten South Africa, had a decent, what you can call it, a decent Six Nations. So Argentina, sure, the Jaguars have suddenly clicked over the last 5 games, but before that, they haven't set the world alight at the international level. So I think Wales are definitely up for definitely the favourites in this tour.
Some of us going to have humble pie in 2 weeks.
Well, yes, I guess so. And then if
this is good, I like strong different opinions. That makes it interesting.
So Christian's gone 2-1 Argentina away. But
they only play
they're only playing 2 games, and then Scotland come in and play a game. So, yes, it is.
I just want to come back to the Australia Ireland games. The reason why it's quite for me that's the series. Because there's been a few winter series recently, our Southern Hemisphere winter series, where we're expecting Australia's been weak and they're going to get beaten by the Northern Hemisphere team, but it hasn't happened. So it'll be interesting because, for me, Ireland are hot favourites to beat Australia over there, with the form that they brought from the Northern Hemisphere with the Six Nations success, etc. But, history doesn't go too well for the touring team in Australia, so it'll be interesting.
But I think still, I read a lot of his stats too, but we have to look at like pure performance and look what actually these teams are bringing right now. Obviously Australia especially, we cannot know because it's some time since we played. But for me, when I'm trying to analyze this series, I see what is the glaring difference. I mean, Australia have a beautiful backline who really can play prop. I mean, it's almost All Blacks. But we all know that backline can trouble the All Blacks. They are just as good as the All Blacks when they're on song. It's excellent. It's super play. But how on earth are this Australian pack going to get parity on the Irish pack? Because the Irish pack, not only have a really settled first 8 in the pack, they pretty much have backup players for every single position also. I mean, there are no weaknesses there. And in Australia,
and bench.
And then the next, they have also that's where I see that series going to be settled. Australia can play inspired for a while. Maybe we get a couple of fluke tries and so on, and they're in that way can run the game away and win a game, But if it's just like Ireland keep doing their thing and doing their grind, I can't see Australia beat them over a series. I can't see it.
If Australia gets a tinny try here or there, all Ireland has to do is say, keep focused, don't panic. And as long as they don't panic, they should be able to get back in the game.
Yeah.
If they panic and it's like, then things could turn pear-shaped for them.
Which is highly
unlikely. Like that, but
it's also reasonable to think that the Irish team is super settled. They are have a strong belief in their coach. The core of the Irish team who play for Leinster, they are in All Blacks region when it comes to losing time. They have hardly, the Crusaders boys, they have hardly lost a game the last year.
Yeah.
Should they all of a sudden lose their confidence? Oh no, we don't believe in ourselves. We're scared of the big bad wallabies, I don't think so. I mean,
no, not at all. You're not going to be.
I mean,
and you rightly pointed out.
Admittedly, I mean, it was against a weak Springboks team last season, but still, Ireland finished the last season by hammering the Springboks 38-3. That was their last game against the Southern Hemisphere team. And then went through and win the Grand Slam, But somehow we're going to think, no. I mean, I read some comments that were saying, it's really positive move coming around in Australia now because for the last couple of weeks in Super Rugby and we start playing some good, Aussie footy, attacking, throwing the pill around and so on. But that's... Paul probably is the one who's most test rugby. So that's not how test rugby works, really, is it, Paul?
No, it's we've seen teams try
Rarely.
that. Andre says, are any of the Northern Hemisphere teams resting large parts of their squads? No, not really.
Not Ireland, definitely not Ireland. Ireland has first selection down here.
Wales arrested some. England is saying they've got 20 players missing, but a lot of those are injured, and I think there's a whole bunch of fringe players as well. No, that's a fairly close to first choice.
Which one am I missing in England? I mean, Jack Noel, I miss definitely, I could say. He will go in the 15, but who else?
There are players
missing.
There are players missing, but a lot of them are fringe players, as I say, and we'll go into the squads in the preview on Thursday. I'm not going to go through that right now, as I've not done my research yet, to be fair. But there are some players missing. But I say a lot of them are fringe players. They're not real players. They are real players. Sorry, they're not first choice players. So no, we're not seeing the mass resting that was rumoured would happen after the Lions tour. So no, not really. But as Herman was saying, Japan versus Italy, 2 tests in back-to-back tests in Singapore are going to be really interesting.
Not in Singapore. We're going to play in Singapore? No, we're going to play in Japan for sure. 1 year before the World Cup, we're going to use the World Cup stadiums 100%.
Why do I think it was in Singapore? I thought they were down in Singapore training. Anyway, never mind.
No.
I don't know why I've got that anyway. Sorry, they've got 2 weeks, two games against Italy back to back, and then really interesting
Georgia.
one is against Georgia. Yes, the side that everyone is saying, they should be in the Six Nations. They're the best second tier 2 nation. No, they're not. I don't think so, and I think we're going to find that out on the 23rd of June.
Well, this would be what's interesting with it. See Japan playing both Georgia and Italy. It will give us an answer really about in the lower end who is actually moving in the right direction. I mean, Japan is not Southern Hemisphere, but we're in the family. Because I have a sense that Japan is moving. Italy and Georgia are moving in the right direction, but I think Japan is moving even more in the right direction. It will give a good receipt. Actually, how much would you improve from playing Super Rugby? We're really going to get a good receipt about that, get a good answer out of that from these games.
And there's no excuse for Japan. They've had their players in camp for 2 weeks. They've skipped the last 2 rounds of Super Rugby.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no excuse for Japan not to perform in this game. In this international window. They've clearly prioritised it well above the Sunwolves, and so we're really looking forward to that. My only disappointment is that Georgia don't have, as far as I can see, games the next 2 weekends to warm up for that game.
No, they do. We're down in Fiji. We're going to play with the one who has like a bye week in the Pacific Nations Cup. We're going to play against Georgia, so we're going to play. I'm pretty certain of this.
Actually, yes. I just realised that the list I've got doesn't list the Pacific Island games, and they have been messed up by the whole European problems deciding about player eligibility, etc. Because Romania was supposed to go and tour the Pacific Islands, but that has been called off, and so I think. So now Samoa are replacing Romania in those first 2 round games. So it'll be Georgia against Fiji, Samoa against Tonga, and then Samoa against Fiji and Georgia against Tonga. Wait,
I think that's.
You're right. That's what
everyone
happens.
gets it. So they will play more than one test.
That's right, and they've already played the French Barbarians, and they lost. They beat the French Barbarians 16-15 last week. So there we go. I think that's pretty much. I think we've gone through all of that. So which game are you most looking forward to this coming weekend? Particularly just game per se, rather than actually the tours now.
You go first, Ash.
Yeah. For me, interesting enough, it will be the All Blacks France games, but for a family reason. I've got my sister coming over with my niece. She's an American. My sister isn't. Well, she lives over there, but so my sister's coming over with her niece. It'll be her first time at Eden Park watching the All Blacks. So that's why I'm looking forward to seeing the All Blacks France at Eden Park.
I got to go actually also with All Blacks against France for the very reason that because we know the other 2 series gonna be probably very even and interesting. But this will also give us an answer if we got another series on our hands too, because we don't really know about the French yet, but a fair few of us have a hunch that the French going to bring it. So I go for All Blacks. I go for All Black France too, and All Blacks is All Blacks. Come on, even as a neutral. that's
Eden Park.
I got okay. I'm gonna sweet talk you a little bit here now, Ash. I mean, come on, it's the All Blacks.
You gotta make up.
I mean, let's not.
Fine. In the fetal position.
Yeah, clearly it's going to be fun watching the All Blacks again. Obviously, being here living in New Zealand and watching that game. And the only question mark I have is, do I get up at what I think is like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to watch that South Africa versus England game?
You will.
I will probably try, but I am sort of wounded by that Six Nations, and can I actually deal with the heartbreak that might happen if we were to lose?
But Paul, I have you seen the pictures of Brad Shield now kitting the red rose, sporting the red rose? Have you seen them?
Oh, I've not seen a picture of him in white yet. No.
Yeah, I saw they're out there today. I saw them. It's weird. I mean, because usually you see this is not the first time but then you have a 3-year period to get used to. He's going to play for a Northern team eventually. But here you have the captain from the Hurricanes, who are with inches to play for the All Blacks, all of a sudden playing for England. It's and he looks happy too. He has a big smile too. Oh, what is
what's there not to be happy about? He's
£22,000 a test. Yeah,
£22,000 a test. But he's also is he 25 or 27?
27.
27. He knows basically he was never going to make it as an All Black. He has dreamed his entire basically probably since he was about 10 or 11 about playing international rugby, and this is it. He's finally made it after 5-6 years going, can I make the All Blacks? Can I make the All Blacks? No. And having all that disappointment, he's now finally there, and he's up against the Springboks, who are traditionally his biggest rival, the New Zealand's biggest rival as well. So, hey, he's going to enjoy playing against them. Why wouldn't you be happy in that environment?
No, he told me, not told me, but he told in an interview also, because we asked him about the national anthem. He said, no problem. He had been singing his grandmother used to sing God Save the Queen all the time when he was a kid. he knows it since a long time.
And let's be honest, it's not one of the hardest national anthems to learn either, if English is your first language.
I have a sense, don't you reckon that most rugby players actually know the national anthems of the other teams too?
I know a lot of fans do. That's true.
But did you see that there was a small shot from a Irish bar when Bowden Batter and Israel Dag was there with some Irish fans, and they were belting out "Show Ireland, Ireland."
As I say, a lot of fans know them. But I do also remember watching, listening to one All Black, and this was a couple of years ago. And I can't remember who it was now. And they basically asked him about the players, and he was like, "Who's that?" And that was that was going to be the guy who was facing off against the next week. So clearly he hadn't been watching much tape. So, and I'm not sure all players are like that. But
well, Israel Dag and Bowden Barrett for sure knew the Irish national anthem. There was no mistaking there in that video I saw.
Cool. Okay, guys, we're going to save question 5 for a couple of weeks' time because we have overrun by a large margin.
But what was it? I don't even know what the last question was.
Don't you?
The Blues again?
Yeah. Another half-hour rant about the Blues.
Let's go for it
now. I sent you the questions on. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's all.
5 minutes before the show. Thank you.
It's the same link we use every week. It's not difficult. Okay, to save the links.
Mommy and Daddy are fighting.
And I'm sure, yes, I'm sure that the wonderful listeners aren't really that concerned about the fact of whether we use Google Docs or not. Now, please, guys, I have forgotten again to do my adverts during the middle of this show. So here's your advert break. Please do press the like button below, and don't forget to subscribe to the DrivingMaul YouTube channel. There we go. That's an expensive voiceover we got there from a famous actress. If you can name her, please do let us know. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining in. Do hit the like button. Do hit subscribe. And Herman, thank you for joining me. You have no social media things, so that's all cool. Ashwin, why don't you let people know where they can have a chat with you during the week?
Injured Fatso on Twitter, and I'll see you there.
Yep, and sorry about all the politics you'll get on there. And at DrivingMaul on Twitter, always up for a rugby chat. Click on, give us a comment down below, and say like, and all of that kind of wonderful stuff. Thank you guys. It has been an absolute blast and a bit of a rant this evening. Hope you enjoyed it.